This is Central Texas Living with Ann Harder.
It's the special time of year. The days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, there's so much to do, so little time. And this year we've got COVID-19 pandemic to navigate. You know, the song says it's the most wonderful time of the year, but for many it's the worst time of the year.
I agree.
As they deal with life changes and loss. Retired executive faculty member at Baylor University, Dr. Sheila Graham-Smith. With me, it's great to have you here. Met you when I was doing Central Texas Living, the TV show, because your book, Tell the Truth About Adultery.
Yes, tough
a story
subject.
of love, betrayal, and hope. And there are a lot of losses that people have to, deal with. And the holidays just seem to emphasize losses, whether it's death or the loss of a relationship. Let's talk about your book first, because it's something that you wrote some years ago.
23 years ago.
But just recently got it published.
That's right.
And I thought it was interesting the first time we were trying to do it 23 years ago, but the publisher's like, this is too raw. This is too
That's exactly
real.
the response that they gave me. And I thought, okay, I'll put it away. And I just put it away. And then what got it back going again was the Me Too movement. And I realized in listening to stories from people, and then all the clergy abuse stuff came out, and I thought, wait, I think I was a victim. What, and I started thinking about it, and I pulled out my book again. I thought, I think it's time for me to see about getting this published. And when I sent it out, you hear the stories about it's not going to get accepted, just keep trying. My first try, and I heard back from, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a friend of mine playing a joke on me when I heard from the publisher. So anyway, yes, it was the right time. And I've gotten unbelievable response from women that have been in the same situation, ministers' wives or within the church or that kind of thing, and how much this book meant to them. And mainly it's because they felt like they weren't alone, that they could speak out, that it wasn't something to be ashamed and embarrassed about. This just happened to you.
Yeah, the little different wrinkle in this is that you were married to a pastor.
Yes.
And the adultery was there was another young divorcee who needed pastoral care.
That's right.
And wow, it just went from bad to worse.
It went from bad to worse. And then I realized also after this came out was that it had been going on all the way through our marriage from church to church.
No.
Yes.
I did not read that in a book. So that is,
And I heard from these women some of them with whom he'd had dalliances or whatever you want to call it. Some weren't all fleshed out affairs, and they were like, yeah, I was one of those. Me too. So,
oh my goodness,
it was awful to think that what I thought was a good life.
You have two sons,
and that it just didn't. It almost felt like it was a lie, but now I know it wasn't. It's just something that happens to you, and you will get over it. It will be a scar, but like your first Thanksgiving or Christmas after something like this, after a divorce, I call it before divorce and after divorce, your life is that first holiday get together. You have an open wound, and it's kind of scabbing over. You're trying to get better, but it's like when you have a scab on your knee as a kid, and you know how anytime it bumps, it hurts and it seeps, and then it oozes, and then it finally gets well.
Yeah.
Well, now it's just a scar, and it doesn't even go across my radar.
Right.
Until holidays.
Mm.
And then not that I'm in still pain or anything like that. It's just, it makes me remember those first years.
Right.
After
those emotions are still there, even with the time.
Right.
And you've remarried. You got a happy marriage.
Great. I mean, now I know what a marriage is supposed to be like.
Yeah.
You know, I have this sweetest guy ever. But yeah, I'm very, very fortunate.
Well, now your boys, I was struck by, of course, this betrayal happened to you. You proceeded with, tried to put it together. You did a lot of kind of way over the top heroics trying to win him back.
Yes.
And that you realized that wasn't happening. But yet, I think it's hard to imagine how his own flesh and blood, he could just, because the boys are genetically tied to him. I think that's the way you put it.
Yes.
Whereas a marriage, you choose this person, didn't work out, okay, bye. But these, how are they doing? As and they were pretty much grown, right, when this happened?
They were both at Baylor at the time, and so thankfully, Baylor is structured in such a way that there are built-in support systems for them, and they had good friends. They were, in a fraternity, but the professors were wonderful and kind and supportive to them, and same with me, because I was working on my PhD at the time and finishing it up, and my professors were so kind and supportive to me. So you realize that you do have that built-in support system when you go through this type of grief. And for example, the first Thanksgiving, I dreaded it, but I knew that my sisters had my back and they were looking out for me. And so, and when my boys got there, it was like all the raucousness of cousins. They just enveloped them back in, and that was healing to them. They were like, okay, a lot of things are changing, but this doesn't change. The cousins are still here. The family's still here. We're still having Thanksgiving at the same place. We still have our special Middle East infused Thanksgiving meal, and things like that don't change.
Okay, so you brought it up. Let's go back to your childhood. You were born in Beirut, Lebanon.
Yes.
And grew up there.
Yes.
In fact, so let's just talk about that. Parents missionaries or what?
Yes. Yes. My parents were missionaries, and my dad's from Scotland, and he had been stationed in North Africa and the Middle East during World War II. He was a navigator in the British Air Force. And my mother, who was a Baylor grad, and her husband went to the Middle East as missionaries, and they were assigned to Palestine before Palestine was Israel, when it was still Palestine, an Arab nation. And so after World War II, when all the Western alliances were looking for a place for all these Jews that we have freed, from the concentration camps, what are we going to do? And Palestine was a weak Arab country at the time, and so I won't go into all the political part of it, but that was one of the places that Jews were sent, because, for number one, America wasn't accepting. They didn't want, they were like hit their capita of Jews or whatever.
Yeah, because there were quite a few that did come.
Yes, there were quite a few that the wealthy that could leave. That was, but the ones that were stuck. I won't get into the politics of it, but they were assigned to Palestine. And my mom's first husband, Henry Haygood, also a Baylor grad, he passed away there. He's buried in Israel. His grave is there. But she stayed, and she had my oldest brother, who's passed now, but he was just a toddler. And my mom is a very strong woman, and she's, I'm called as a missionary. I'm not going back. I don't see any reason to go back. Everybody assumed she would, and she stayed. And so she was going to language school there in Jerusalem, and my father was in her class, and he was assigned to her as a tutor.
Wow.
Because he was just like soaring through Arabic and really good. And she was doing well in conversation but struggling with the writing. Anyway, they ended up, yeah.
Yeah, interesting story. And so you're born there, in
Yes.
Baylor, and you don't come stateside till you're a teenager.
Freshman at Baylor, I came.
Oh my goodness, what kind of a cultural shock! You and I are about the same age.
That's right. We were there at the same time.
And so I can imagine, my growing up here in Central Texas, going to Richfield High School, and so all the teenage stuff and all that sort of thing. You were like in a totally another world.
Another world, and I consider I'm bilingual, so Arabic and English, and basically I speak Arabic with those that are Arab and English. I just switch back and forth, and even to this day, I dream in Arabic.
Do you really?
And I'm more comfortable. I have a sense of belonging when I'm around Arab communities, my Lebanese friends, and so forth. I feel like if you can belong in two different places, that's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
But
what was the biggest shock though at Baylor?
Dating.
Because you really
I
hadn't. Yeah.
And get in a car with a guy, and even the driving part. I didn't have my driver's license. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to drive. I learned how to drive in the parking lot at the library. Yes. Right.
Okay. So, you're professionally, you were at Baylor. You're retired now due to health issues.
Yes.
And so, talk a little bit about what you did with it. You were kind of an advocate for special needs students.
Yes. I was the director of the Office of Access and Learning Accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the support office for students with disabilities.
Yeah.
And I taught also in curriculum and instruction and in educational psychology. So it was like a executive staff / faculty position. When I had to retire, my heart was broken, but another avenue opened up for me, and that was being able to start a special ed program in Lebanon, and kind of transferring my skills here, but starting something new and fresh there in Lebanon and being able to be bilingual. I was able to go to the Minister of Education and speak in Arabic, and then, back and forth. So it was like everything in my life came together for this.
So something good comes out of
that. Yeah.
the fact that you had to retire.
Yeah.
You mentioned your sisters.
Yes.
With close family.
Yes.
And as we're talking about loss and dealing with loss, you recently lost a sister.
Yes. I still can't believe she's not there, because we can't get together for holidays, and I would have really felt her absence because she lived in Washington State. And it was one of these horrible things. She was diagnosed with lung cancer, never smoked. And 2 weeks later, she was dead. It was like we didn't have a chance to, all of us sisters got on a FaceTime conversation with her. And then on an afternoon, her daughter, who's a doctor, arranged it for us. And we were talking and laughing and just cutting up as only sisters can do. And then that evening she died.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, we were talking about getting together again the next day. It's just been, yeah.
Well, and we've, so many people now that I know of who have passed away because of COVID.
Yes.
And there's just a lot of loss this time of year. What are your thoughts on, how are you getting through?
I have to, even though I don't mind speaking out to large groups and teaching and doing all this, I'm basically an introvert. I need to be alone to get my energy back, whether it's in the garden or writing. And I have my own website now, and I do writing twice a week, blog posts, and that has helped a lot. But I have to find and choose what I know is real and stable and glob onto that during the holidays.
Yeah.
And one is with my husband now. For example, this Thanksgiving with nobody, we did an all-day date day for Thanksgiving, just the two of us.
How fun.
We did. We got all dressed up. We had the fancy meal, the best dishes, china. We got it
Aw.
all out, and we just had the best time.
That's good. Well, I wanted to ask you, kind of going back to the book,
Yes.
in spite of everything you went through,
Yes.
your faith wasn't shaken. And
No.
I think that's because I could see somebody saying, I had this storybook, situated, married to the pastor, and then boom, he is a total reprobate. But yeah, you never seemingly, your faith wasn't shaken by that.
No, it wasn't. And in fact, now I remember the exact time on the couch in one of those sleepless nights with my grandmother's Afghan on me. And I just had this epiphany that the world can take everything away from you, everything, but not your faith. Nobody can take that away. That's mine.
Yeah.
And I think one reason is because I didn't depend on church for my faith or a relationship for my faith. My faith was my own.
Yeah, that's well said, because I mean you can see how people can have a crisis of faith when something an unexpected death, something like that. There's this anger. You hear about the stages of grief.
Lots of anger, yes.
And yeah, there's a lot of anger in this book.
You
As a
noticed.
matter of fact, just a tad.
It's telling the truth.
Like when the other woman, you talk to her on the phone and you kind of lose it.
I lost it.
Okay, so again, this was years ago. I mean,
Years
you were
ago.
just like it all just
Now-
boiled out.
Yes.
But I mean, you regretted it, I think, right?
Oh, yes, I did regret it. And I apologized for it.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
Kind of.
But I think one of those sons sort of overheard part of it.
Yes,
He's like,
he did.
Mom.
He goes, Mom, that's enough now. Let's just hang up the phone.
Let's just hang up the phone. But that's part of the process is the
Yes.
anger.
Yes, it is. It's the anger. And, but then, you put the anger away, but then it comes up. And I think the best way to deal with these strong emotions is feel them.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, don't do that. That's being too emotional or too this. And I'm like, no, feel whatever it is that you're feeling, whether it's anger or sadness or just you want to cry in the middle of the grocery store, then just do it. And you need to pass through and walk through those times, through the valley of the shadow of death. And you're going to walk through them. You're going to keep walking. You're going to keep walking.
I like to end these little visits with a questionnaire.
Okay.
Similar to the one the late, great James Lipton would do on Inside the Actor's Studio. Does that ring a bell? Doesn't ring a bell with you?
No.
Some people do.
No American
some don't.
culture here.
Well,
It's
I was
not.
going to say, that could be a little bit of that, but very simple. It's like, what is your favorite word?
Oh, dear.
Because you're a wordsmith.
I am. Sanctuary.
Oh, beautiful.
That's it. Definitely. Sanctuary.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your least favorite word?
I know exactly what it is.
Do you need to spell it?
No. Plethora. I hate that word.
Okay.
And it's because it's overused. And people like to just drop it in like a word bomb to prove that they're just very, I don't know, educated or something. I mean, I hear it everywhere on sports announcers or whatever. And I'm going, really?
No, I'm going to have to notice that.
I know. You will. I promise. So that's
Okay.
a pet peeve. I'm sorry.
All right, that's good. No, that's fine. So what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Colors, patterns. I can be out in the yard, and you know me. We share the love of gardening, and I'll see a pattern of the way the flowers are growing, or colors, the way they fit together, or walking through Joanne's fabric and just running my hands through the fabrics, that kind of thing. So colors and patterns, and yeah.
Yeah, good. So what turns you off creatively, emotionally, or spiritually?
Background noise. I even in church, sometimes I'll get distracted by when I feel like it's too much coming at me, or someone's trying to manipulate, kind of trying to manipulate my emotions or feelings. I resist. I say, I'm not going there. Just because you want me to, I'm not going to.
Good.
But yeah.
Well, then what sound do you love the most?
Oh, I know that. The birds in the morning. We sleep with our windows open even in the wintertime, and I love that. And my chicken's waking up. I love hearing that. My chicken's waking up.
I was going to ask you how your chickens are doing.
Yeah.
You just gotten a new crew of chickens, a new little flock.
Yeah.
In fact, one ended up being a rooster, and you didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
He was kind of this teenage rooster. Was all right.
Yeah. He was making all kinds of noise. And I thought, what's wrong with him? Yeah.
What's wrong with his hen? Well,
it's a rooster. Yeah.
Oh, great. What's your least favorite sound?
I don't like background music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like background. I'm a very quiet person, so and I'm not a music person. I'm not talented musically, so I never have music on the radio. It's always a talk show, NPR or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think background music, especially if it's real loud, like in a restaurant or something,
Oh, yeah.
I just want to go turn it off, please.
And we will ask sometimes. Okay, so what other profession would you have liked to try?
In my more retirement years, I've enjoyed gardening a whole lot more, and I think I would love to be like a professor in gardening. I mean, like really,
You could be Dr. Smith.
really get into it and know it, and
Yeah.
all the bees, all of that just fascinates me. So yeah, so maybe a nursery owner.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and you provided a lot of plants for my garden, so I have to publicly thank you for that, because
Anytime.
they did great. They did great. Well, what profession do you know you would not want to do?
Anything to do with math, accounting, technology. Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of have a theme going.
I'm just
These-
like, my brain doesn't. Although with my website and everything I have now, I have taken a huge leap and learned so much. So I do have a web person that supervises everything, but I do all of the other stuff, the inputting myself. I feel real proud of myself.
You
for
should,
learning
yeah.
it. Yeah.
That's good.
But it hadn't been easy.
Okay, so finally, what do you want to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Not just say, I want arms wide open, almost like a garden gate opening, and him saying ahlan wa sahlan, which means welcome, with good health and hospitality. Everything that's mine is yours. Come on in.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
what I
great.
want.
That's great. So tell us again how folks can access your website. You have a blog, you have a Facebook page.
Yes.
How do they get that?
So if you go to all lowercase Sheila Graham Smith at AOL.com, you can you'll get to my a lot of things will pop up, but you can get to my website by SheilaGrahamSmith.com. And I post to Facebook. If you want to befriend me on Facebook, that's great. So you can access my website that way. And I post twice a week. On Tuesdays, meditations, and on Fridays, it's gardening and recipes and hospitality.
Fun.
And for my book, you can go to Barnes & Noble. They carry it, or go to Amazon.
Again, it's Tell the Truth About Adultery, a story of love, betrayal, and hope.
That's right.
And
emphasis on hope.
Hope is the key right there. Thank you, Dr. Sheila Graham Smith. It's been a joy.
Thank you. It's always good talking to you. Thanks, my friend.
Central Texas Living is part of the Rogue Media Network family. Be sure to check out their other shows at roguemedianetwork.com. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Join us again soon for more Central Texas Living, the podcast.
Hello, and thank you for tuning into KNOW Waco. I am your host, Debbie, here to help you get in the know about Waco. So you may be asking yourself, why am I here? I'm here to be your tour guide through Waco. I'm here to tell you all the goings-on in and around Waco. I'm going to give you the 411 on what's happening, what's going on, and what events you should go to. This is your host, Debbie, signing off. Now that you know, go. Just go, Waco.
You are going on a run.
Are you building a new business while managing a family? Are you tired of trying to balance home and work and everything seems to be coming up short? Then there's a podcast made just for you. Baking Your Business from Scratch is where we create the perfect recipe for building a successful business while managing your home and family with love. Come join us and see for yourself.
This has been Rogue Media Network Podcast.